South Africa and US tension is escalating. Since Donald Trump took power, he has had some issues in South Africa. And there has been a diplomatic fallout between South Africa and the United States. The US recently expelled South Africa ambassador, leading to President Cyril Ramaphosa to appoint former Deputy Finance Minister Macbeth Jonas as a special envoy to mend ties with the US.
And what is it about Macbeth Jonas, Mr. Magwenya, that tells the president that he is the right person for the job that you've just described?
Well, he brings into the role an enormous amount of political leadership experience, having served as the Deputy Minister of Finance. He is very familiar with the kind of geopolitical issues that are currently at play.
Right now, the U.S. is undergoing a watershed moment, with Biden the certain winner in the presidential race against the racist, homophobe Donald Trump. How we got to a situation where a narcissistic right-winger took charge of the world's greatest economic and military powerhouse is something that we need to ponder over.
Equally familiar with our economic and particularly trade interest with the U.S., having served in government, he went on to serve in the private sector. Currently, he is the independent chairman of the MTN Group, which is a multinational company that, again, engages at various levels of government and political leadership in the different countries it operates. And so he brings in that required level of stature, experience, as well as political gravitas into the role.
Now, this move follows disagreement between the two countries on various policy. Now, why is there a fallout between South Africa and the US? Why are the issues escalating? What business does US has with South Africa that is causing all this chaos? Now, we'll talk about that. The tension between South Africa and US started down. Number one is because South Africa is taking back land from the white settlers without compensation. And that's where United States started saying that South Africa are doing bad. That's where it started. But I have my own views on this because South Africa is one of the very, very most economical country in Africa. It's one of the best countries in Africa. And when you talk about the best countries, we talk about economically, we talked about politically, stability, we talk about, resources-wise, because tourism-wise, so South Africa is one of the vital country in Africa. And some people say it's the capital city of Africa. And the reason why South Africa and the USA is having all these wrangles, according to me, is because of the relationship between South Africa and Russia. South Africa has refused to condemn Russia invasion in Ukraine, maintaining an aligned position and even participating in joint naval exercise with Russia and China in 2023. As we all know, South Africa is into BRICS. And the BRICS movement is an anti-Western rhetoric. BRICS and Westerns are not on the same line. South Africa is a vocal member, is a member because BRICS contain of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So South Africa is a vocal member of BRICS. And here is where I get so much, confused. How does South Africa work with BRICS and work with Western at the same time? How? Because it is literally not giving. South Africa need to choose one. And I may say they need to choose BRICS. Full force. Because as we know, the countries that are in BRICS have never had any bad history with Africa. They have not have history of colonizing Africa and etc., etc. So it has increasingly supported this world narrative of echoing the anti-US, anti-dollar. It is giving the negative vibe to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is getting irritated with this. And one thing for sure, South Africa is a very important member of BRICS. And one thing for sure, Donald Trump or USA want this South Africa. Because South Africa plays a very, very important role in the world at large. Now, another thing, in this game, we have Washington in it. And Washington feels that While South Africa enjoys US trade benefits like AGOA, that's African Growth and Opportunity Act, it's also causing up to American global rivals. Understand that? And the US sees this as a kind of double game. And the Western economy packs while aligning ideology with China and Russia. Talking Western economy packs and aligning with the ideology of China and Russia. So it's like a double game. So that's where things are getting messy between South Africa and USA. The US is concerned about losing its influence in Africa. And as we know, South Africa generally has a lot of impact in Africa. So losing your influence in South Africa speaks a lot, because some countries you will lose to on those countries. So South Africa's leadership and diplomacy matter continent-wide. So how it aligns internationally with the countries matters a lot. So I may say this: Donald Trump is frustrated. Donald Trump has fear. And South Africa is giving Donald Trump, or is giving US a headache, because what South Africa is doing is standing with their own, what they want and what they love. But US want to control what's happening in Africa. And by controlling Africa, that means you'll be controlling, or by controlling South Africa, that's like controlling Africa. And South Africa is standing firm, does not want to be controlled by any outside countries. So here is to say that USA is losing its influence in Africa because of South Africa. And by that, it's making some moves. Not bringing aid to South Africa, not giving, these food aids and medical aids they were giving to South Africa. And it's high time African countries sees what's happening between South Africa and USA, that we cannot enter into this. It's high time African countries see what you will get when you decide to cut ties with USA. Right now, Kenya is number one ally of USA. So if Kenya decides to cut ties with USA, that means that USA will start sabotaging Kenya. So it's a wake-up call for African leaders. You have to see, watch closely what's happening. How USA is escalating things with South Africa, because South Africa has decided to make their own choice, and their own choice is to be in BRICS. So it's creating tension, and that's what African leaders must see, because Africa is time we wake up. It is time we wake up and we stop depending on these aids, because once they cut off these aids, we'll start stumbling, staggering, and that's what they're happy on. So when we go back to them and saying, oh, just help us, they'll put on high taxes, and things will be worse. So for a better tomorrow, African leaders have to watch what's going on between USA and South Africa, because reclaiming back land of South Africans, back to the black South Africans, is not an issue to USA. Why are you concerned with the land of South Africans? Do you still want to colonize South Africans? So we as African continents, the presidents, the youths, and everyone must open. This is not just a story that we are seeing as stories. No, this is a deal that's each and every country in Africa must watch, because what's happening in South Africa will happen in Kenya, will happen in Ghana, will happen in Somalia, will happen in Central Africa. Because when you don't sing the language of the USA, they cut ties or they cut aids with you, so you go suffer. As Ibrahim Traore said, it's time for Africa to eat from the sweat of their own. Okay? Tell me what you think. This is the eye of Africa, and I am the Kenyan Beast.